My hands are shaking so bad right now I can barely type this. NGL. I never thought I'd be posting on a throwaway account like this. Spilling my guts. I'm Dave, 42, and for the last 15 years, Sarah and I built what I thought was a perfect life, especially with our daughter, Ellie. But something shifted, and after what happened this morning, I just activated every piece of surveillance tech I have in my own home. I've always been a builder, a fixer. My company, it's all about security, about knowing what's happening when you're not looking. Surveillance tech. Kinda ironic now, isn't it? I built this empire from scratch, starting with nothing but a knack for code and a drive that wouldn't quit. And then I met Sarah. Man, she was everything, just utterly charming, sharp, beautiful. She walked into my life like a force of nature, and suddenly I wasn't just building a company, I was building a future, a whole damn life with her. We clicked, you know, like two pieces of a puzzle. It felt solid, unbreakable. Then Ellie came along, our daughter, and for a while that bond just intensified everything. We were a family, the dream. But somewhere along the line, after Ellie turned 2, maybe 3, I started to feel it, a subtle shift. Sarah, the woman who used to hang on my every word, who'd laugh until her sides hurt at my stupid jokes, started drifting. Not dramatically, not at first. Just a little further away day by day, like a boat untethering from the dock. I told myself it was new parenthood, the stress, the sleepless nights. We all change, right? But it kept getting worse. I remember it vividly. My grandpa's funeral last year. It was a tough day, emotionally draining. Sarah was there physically, but she was miles away. Her phone was constantly buzzing. She was on it, scrolling, half listening. Ellie, who was barely 5 then, was clutching my hand, her little face etched with confusion. She looked up at me, right in the middle of the wake, and asked, clear as a bell, "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy love us anymore?" It hit me like a gut punch. I didn't know what to say. I mumbled something about Mommy being sad, but even then I knew it was a lie. Kids see everything. After that, the work events and girls' nights out became a constant loop. Every other night it felt like, gotta finish this report, Dave. Client dinner, babe. Girls' night, you know how it is. Always a new excuse, always a late return, sometimes reeking faintly of booze in a perfume that wasn't hers. Or maybe it was, but it smelled different. I felt this tightening in my chest, this knot of dread. Red flags, man. They were popping up everywhere, waving in my face. But I was so deep in denial, so desperate to believe she wasn't that person, that I just kept swatting them away. She's ambitious, Dave. She's social. Don't be an insecure asshole. That's what I told myself, but the gut feeling eventually got too loud to ignore. One night, a couple of weeks ago, after she came home at 1 a.m. from another client meeting, I finally snapped. "Sarah," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "are you seeing someone else?" Straight up, no beating around the bush. Her reaction? Classic gaslighting. "What? Are you insane, Dave? After everything we've built? How could you even think that?" She was angry, defensive, turned it right back on me. Made me feel like the crazy one for even asking. And I believed her. For a minute, I really did. But the next night, she was out again. Another girls' night. I begged her, "Please, Sarah, stay home tonight. Ellie misses you. I miss you. Let's just have a family night, a quiet dinner." Her eyes were cold. "Don't be pathetic, Dave. I have plans." And she just walked out, just like that. The sound of her heels clicking on the hardwood, then the engine starting, the car pulling away. Ellie, who'd been secretly watching from the top of the stairs, let out this tiny, heartbreaking sob. I picked her up, held her tight, felt her little body shaking as she watched her mom's taillights disappear down our street. It broke me, utterly shattered me. That whole weekend was a blur of tension. Sarah came home late Saturday morning, stinking of stale alcohol, nursing a massive hangover. We barely spoke. When we did, it was an argument, mostly about her abandonment. Sunday night, I tried again. I wanted to connect, to bridge the growing chasm between us. I reached for her in bed, hoping for some warmth. some familiarity. She flinched, pulled away. Dave, I have a stomach ache, she mumbled, turning her back to me. A stomach ache. After everything. That was the last straw. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling utterly numb. My gut was screaming. This wasn't Sarah, not the Sarah I married. This was a stranger. And that night, something clicked. My company builds these systems, state-of-the-art, discreet. Why was I ignoring the tools at my disposal for my own life? I got up, went to my study. My hands were shaking, but my mind was cold, precise. I spent an hour methodically activating the hidden cameras and microphones I'd installed years ago for security. A passive system, never actively monitored. Until now. I turned them all on. Audio and visual. Every room. Call it paranoia. Call it desperation. Call it a husband at the end of his rope. I needed to know. I couldn't live like this, battling a ghost. NGL, it felt dirty. A huge invasion of privacy. But what about my privacy? My peace of mind? I told myself I was just gathering evidence, an investigator in my own life. My logical brain was taking over, trying to find concrete proof because my heart couldn't take the guessing game anymore. I still hadn't seen anything definitive, nothing concrete, just vague, unsettling changes. No texts, no incriminating calls I'd accidentally seen, just this overwhelming, suffocating feeling. This morning I left for work, the weight of what I'd done, what I was about to find, pressing down on me. I usually handle Ellie's breakfast and drop-off, but today I just said, Sarah, you're home. You handle it. I walked out, leaving her to face Ellie alone for once. The silence in the car was deafening. My own home was now a surveillance hub, and I was the one watching it. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was at my desk, supposedly reviewing Q3 reports, but my eyes kept darting to the monitor displaying the feed from home, my sanctuary, now a digital panopticon. I built my company on the premise that knowledge is power, that security comes from knowing. I'd sold systems to governments, to Fortune 500 companies, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for turning that same meticulous, cold analysis on my own wife. It felt predatory, but also necessary. A gut feeling wasn't enough anymore. I needed facts, hard facts. The first big hit came a few hours later. I was reviewing the audio from the living room, fast-forwarding through boring snippets of Ellie playing with her toys. Then I heard it, Sarah's voice, hushed, almost a whisper, but clear as day. She was on the phone, pacing by the window. Yeah, babe, she murmured, her voice soft, not the tone she used with me. I'll make sure I'm free for the entire business trip. Just me and you. My blood ran cold. Business trip? I thought. We had a shared digital calendar, meticulously updated for both our work and family stuff. It was practically gospel in our house. I immediately pulled it up. October, November, December. Nothing? Zero. Zip. No business trips scheduled for Sarah, not even a local conference. It was an outright lie. A blatant, in-your-face lie. That's when the numbness started to set in. Not shock, not yet. More like a cold, analytical dread. All her vague explanations for her frequent outings, the work dinners, the girls' nights, they all clicked into place, not as benign excuses, but as layers of a carefully constructed deception. Every time she'd brushed off my questions with a casual wave or a sigh, it wasn't just avoidance, it was evasion. My home surveillance, as good as it was, couldn't follow her out the door. I needed eyes on the ground. Real eyes. That's when I called Leo Maxwell. He's legendary in the PI circuit. Ex-DEA, quiet, thorough, and completely discreet. We'd worked tangentially on a few corporate security cases before. I need someone watched, Leo. Discreetly. My wife, I said, my voice flat, emotionless. He didn't ask questions, just gave me a short, send me the details. A few grand up front, no problem. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about truth. Leo started within 24 hours. His initial reports were mundane. Sarah going to the gym, meeting a friend for lunch, running errands. But then, a few days in, a new detail emerged. Subject observed making hushed calls on a second phone, a basic flip phone, not her primary smartphone. Appears to be highly secretive, often checking surroundings before and during calls. A burner phone, a damn burner phone. That's not for work. That's for hiding something. Or someone. I waited until she was home, alone with Ellie for once. I tried to sound casual. Hey babe, noticed you've got a new phone. What's that, a vintage flip phone? I tried to joke. She froze, her eyes narrowed. What? Oh, this? It's just a burner. For work. My company issued it for confidential calls. Total BS. My company dealt with confidential calls too. We used encrypted apps, secure lines, not a disposable flip phone from the early 2000s. I pressed her, really? Since when does your marketing firm issue burner phones? She exploded. Are you checking up on me, Dave? This is insane. You're being paranoid. Gaslighting, textbook style. It stung, but I stood my ground. Just curious, Sarah. Never seen you with one before. She dismissed me with a wave, clearly rattled. Her reaction, combined with Leo's report, solidified it. I knew what I had to do next. My car. I'd installed a small voice-activated recorder in her car months ago, just a general precaution because she drove Ellie sometimes. I activated the remote playback, and there it was. Her voice again, softer, more intimate than I'd heard it in years. Hey you. Yeah, just leaving the house. Can't wait for our trip. Thinking of you. Always. The casual intimacy, the shared joke about the trip. It was a stab to the gut. She sounded like a lovesick teenager. Then came Leo's call. Well, Dave, about that business trip Sarah mentioned. She checked into the Red Brick Inn downtown on Tuesday. Not a convention center, not a client office, just a standard motel. And she wasn't alone. My breath hitched. He continued, I have photos. She met up with a man, Chad, dark hair, mid-30s. They were about very close. He sent them through. My phone buzzed. I clicked the link. The first image was Sarah laughing, a genuine, joyful laugh I hadn't seen directed at me in years, holding hands with this Chad guy. The second, a tight embrace, a kiss, not a peck, a full-on, passionate kiss. My wife, my Sarah, with another man. The world tilted. It wasn't just a gut feeling anymore. It was staring me in the face, undeniable, pixelated proof. The air left my lungs. My worst fears, the ones I'd tried so hard to deny, were real, confirmed. I felt a wave of nausea followed by a searing, white-hot anger that started deep in my gut and spread through every fiber of my being. Betrayal. It was a word I'd heard, read about, but never truly felt until that moment. It wasn't just the affair, it was the lies, the gaslighting, the years of performance, the mockery of our family. It was all a lie. After Leo sent those initial photos, I dove headfirst into the data. I started systematically reviewing every minute of home surveillance footage, going back months. It was a sick kind of self-torture, watching our lives play out and fast forward, but it was also chillingly illuminating. I saw Sarah's face, tired, often blank, as she interacted with me or Ellie. Then I'd compare it to the photos Leo sent, her face alight with laughter, her eyes sparkling, a genuine joy radiating from her that hadn't been directed at me in years. The emotional distance I'd felt, the slow drift, was now concrete, visible proof. She was acting a part at home, a convincing performance of a wife and mother, while reserving her real self, her joy, her affection, for him. It was sickening. The phone intercepts intensified the agony. I managed to broaden my net, thanks to my team's expertise, and soon Sarah's entire phone activity was funneling through my system. I heard their conversations, the pet names, the intimate details, the plans for future trips, explicit, graphic. They weren't just having an affair, they were deeply involved, deeply, disgustingly involved. Hearing her whisper, I love you to him, knowing she hadn't said it to me, truly meant it, in so long. It was like a knife twisting in my gut, over and over again. The next piece of this puzzle came from our finances. I'm meticulous with money, always have been. One night, a statement from a bank I didn't recognize landed in our mailbox addressed solely to Sarah. Weird, I thought. We had joint accounts for everything. I opened it. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a credit card under her name only, with a shockingly high balance. This wasn't just a separate account. This was a secret life account. I went through the transactions. Luxury watches, designer clothes, weekend getaways to boutique hotels, fine dining experiences. None of it for me. None of it for Ellie. It quickly became clear these were lavish gifts for Chad and clandestine trips with him. Thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. Money that could have gone towards Ellie's college fund, our family's future, was being siphoned off to fund her sordid affair. Then I audited our joint accounts looking for the source. Sure enough, significant funds were missing. Not huge, noticeable chunks, but consistent, smaller withdrawals over time designed not to trigger alerts. She'd been systematically bleeding us dry to fund her double life. I confronted her about it. My voice was calm, almost unnervingly so. "Sarah, what's this?" I held up the statement. She went pale. What is that?" she stammered. "It's your secret credit card, Sarah. And these transactions. What are these for? Who are you buying luxury watches for? Who are you taking to these hotels?" She immediately went into defense mode. "It's for work, client entertainment. You're just being jealous, Dave. I'm allowed to have my own accounts." Pure gaslighting. Again, but this time I had the receipts. Literally. She was backed into a corner, and she knew it. Under the pressure, her composure completely cracked. Her behavior became erratic, defensive. She'd snap at Ellie, slam doors, spend hours in her room on her burner phone whispering. She was a coiled spring, ready to lash out at the slightest provocation. It was a mess. Meanwhile, Leo kept digging. He confirmed Chad's identity. Chad Thompson, a partner at a mid-sized law firm downtown. Successful, polished. Makes sense why Sarah would be drawn to him. He was everything I was, but new, exciting, unburdened by our shared history, our family. I needed the burner phone. I knew it held the key. One night, while Sarah was in the shower, I found it, tucked deep in her lingerie drawer, under a pile of scarves, a cheap, beat-up flip phone. I took it, went to my study, and within minutes, using my specialized software, I had it cracked wide open. Every text, every call log, every picture, even the deleted ones. What I found was sickening. A treasure trove of explicit messages, photos, and videos. Plans for their future together. Talk of divorcing me, taking half my assets, moving in with Chad. This wasn't just a fling. This was a calculated, long-term plan. She'd been plotting this for months, maybe even over a year. The business trip they discussed, it was a planned romantic getaway for his birthday. The luxury watch, his birthday gift. The full scope of Sarah's deceit and betrayal hit me with the force of a tidal wave. It wasn't just physical infidelity, it was emotional, financial, a complete dismantling of our life together. She had systematically lied, manipulated, and stolen from me and Ellie. My wife, the mother of my child, was a stranger, a con artist. I closed the laptop, my hands no longer shaking, but rock solid. There was no going back. I couldn't unsee, unhear, unfeel any of this. The decision was made. I called Brenda Carmichael. She's known as the fiercest divorce attorney in the city, an absolute shark. I needed a shark. For Ellie, for me. "Brenda," I said, my voice cold and steady, "I need to talk to you about a divorce, an asset protection. I have all the evidence you'll ever need." The secret credit bar was just the tip of the iceberg, a tiny, insignificant crack in the dam. Once I started digging deeper, once Mike Miller, my lead forensic accountant, and one of my most trusted colleagues got involved, the true monstrosity of Sarah's financial betrayal began to emerge. It wasn't just about lavish gifts and secret trips on her personal, hidden credit card. Oh no, that was just her pocket money. What Mike and I uncovered made my stomach churn. She wasn't just spending, she was actively siphoning company funds, embezzling, using her access as our company's lead accountant, a position I had given her, a position of trust. She'd been manipulating expense reports, creating ghost invoices, diverting small, seemingly innocuous amounts into shell accounts, and then funneling those into her personal, secret accounts. It was sophisticated, methodical, and chillingly calculated. This wasn't a desperate act. This was a planned, deliberate scheme to steal from me, from my company, from the very foundation that supported our family. Mike was a godsend. He worked tirelessly, a grim look on his face as he pieced together the financial forensics. Every manipulated ledger, every fraudulent transfer, every fake receipt. He laid it all out for me, a timeline of deceit spanning years. The sheer audacity of it, the cold, calculating nature of her actions, made my blood run cold. She wasn't just betraying me as a husband. She was betraying me as a business partner, as a friend, as the person who literally handed her the keys to my kingdom. I moved fast. The moment Mike confirmed the extent of the embezzlement, I was on the phone to our IT team, securing every company asset. All access codes to financial systems, bank accounts, even the internal network were immediately changed. Sarah's access? Revoked, terminated, locked out. She wouldn't be able to touch another dime. It was swift, clinical, and absolutely necessary. Sure enough, just hours later, an alert popped up on my dashboard. An attempted transfer, a large one, to an unfamiliar offshore account. It was Sarah, trying to make a final massive grab, but it was blocked, denied. The system I built, the system she tried to exploit, had just protected itself and me. A grim satisfaction settled over me, quickly followed by a fresh wave of disgust. Brenda, my lawyer, was formidable. She listened to everything, her expression unwavering, only nodding occasionally. When I finished, she leaned forward, her voice sharp and precise. Dave, this isn't just a divorce. This is criminal fraud, embezzlement. We're not just seeking a divorce. We're seeking full custody of Ellie, restitution for every penny she stole, and we will pursue criminal charges. She outlined a comprehensive legal strategy: divorce proceedings, a restraining order to protect our assets, and a separate track for the fraud charges. We'll hit her from every angle. She won't know what hit her. Brenda's plan, combined with Mike's meticulous work, was airtight. We had every piece of evidence: the secret credit card statements, the bank records showing the diverted funds, the manipulated company ledgers, the burner phone full of explicit messages and plans. It was overwhelming, indisputable. Sarah, meanwhile, was clearly losing it. She started calling me, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails. Dave, why can't I access the accounts? What are you doing? This is my game. And then the ultimate deflection. You're doing this because you neglected me. You were always too busy with your company. This is your fault. Gaslighting to the bitter end. Twisting the narrative, trying to paint me as the villain, the cold, unfeeling tech mogul who drove his wife into another man's arms and into a life of crime. It was pathetic and terrifying. Emotionally, I was a wreck. Some nights, I'd just sit in Ellie's room after she fell asleep, watching her breathe, feeling this hollow ache in my chest. The betrayal was so deep, so profound, it felt like a part of me had died. But looking at Ellie, her innocent, trusting face, that's what kept me going. I had to protect her from Sarah, from this toxic, deceitful environment. My determination solidified into a cold, hard resolve. I spent days along with Brenda's team preparing the final documentation: the divorce papers, the restraining orders, the financial restitution claims, the request for full custody. It was all there, meticulously detailed, backed by irrefutable evidence. Brenda's legal team was building a strong case not just for personal betrayal, but for Sarah's professional misconduct, which would undoubtedly impact her career. This wasn't going to be a clean break. It was going to be war. And I was ready. My chest feels hollow, but my resolve is iron hard. NGL, the next few days are going to be brutal, a complete demolition of the life I thought I had. But it has to happen. For Ellie, for me. There's no turning back from this. My family's here, providing a shield against the inevitable storm. This isn't just about truth anymore. It's about justice, about tearing down the losses piece by piece. Stick around to the end to see how life's costly choices unfold. The hardest part aside from the initial discovery, was telling my family. I gathered my parents and my two siblings at my house after Ellie was asleep. The air in the living room was thick with unspoken worry. They knew something was terribly wrong. I took a deep breath, and without emotion, I laid it all out. Every lie, every deception, every stolen dollar, every explicit detail. I showed them the photos, played snippets of the phone calls. Their faces went from concern to utter shock, then to disgust, and finally to a profound sadness. My mom started crying softly. My dad, a man of few words, just clenched his jaw, his eyes fixed on me, radiating support. "We're here for you, son," he said, his voice rough. "Whatever you need." That was the validation I needed, the emotional fortress to lean on. The next day, it was Sarah's turn. I timed it for when Ellie was at preschool. Sarah walked into the living room, probably expecting another argument, another round of me being paranoid. She looked tired, brittle. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just laid it all out, systematically. First, the photos of her and Chad, then the audio of their calls, explicit, intimate. Her face went ashen. "Dave, what is this? This is edited. You're making this up," she cried, her voice rising in hysterics. "No, Sarah, it's all real," I said, my voice flat. Then came the financial documents, the secret credit card statements, the manipulated company ledgers, Mike's detailed report on the embezzled funds, the attempted wire transfer. My words were precise, each one a hammer blow. "You've been stealing from me, from our company for months. For Chad, you've been planning this, haven't you?" Her initial denials were frantic, a desperate attempt to cling to her gaslighting playbook. But the sheer volume of evidence, the undeniable proof staring her in the face, was too much. Her composure shattered. She crumbled. First tears, then choked sobs, then a full-blown emotional breakdown, collapsing onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. Eventually the sobs subsided, replaced by a defeated whisper. She confessed everything. The affair with Chad, the embezzlement, the long-term planning, the whole sordid mess spilled out, bitter and ugly. But then, true to form, she tried to justify it. "You don't understand, Dave. You were always working, always so busy. I was lonely. He listened to me. You neglected me." NGL, a part of me wanted to scream, to unleash all the rage that had been boiling inside me for months. But I just stared at her, numb. Loneliness doesn't justify theft, Sarah, and it certainly doesn't justify lying to your child. My family, who had been listening from the adjacent dining room, came in then. Their presence was a silent, powerful indictment. My mom put an arm around me. My sister just shook her head in disbelief, looking at Sarah with pure disgust. Sarah couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Humiliated, exposed, with no more lies left to tell, she just nodded weakly. "I need to go," she whispered. She went upstairs, packed a small bag, a weekend bag, probably all she needed, and came back down. The silence was deafening. The silence was, she walked out the front door without another word, without looking back. Just like that. The woman I married, the mother of my child, vanished from our home. When Ellie came home from preschool, her bright, innocent face full of questions, my heart broke all over again. "Daddy, where's Mommy? Is she at work?" she asked, her voice small. I knelt down, hugged her tight, and swallowed the lump in my throat. Mommy needs some time away, sweetie, to think. She'll be gone for a little while." It was a partial truth, a shield for her young mind against the ugliness of reality. She looked sad, confused, but she accepted it for now. With Sarah gone, my next call was to Chad. I tracked down his work number, his personal cell. He answered the second one, his voice arrogant, clipped. "Who is this?" I didn't mince words. "This is Dave, Sarah's husband." There was a beat of silence. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about," Sadie started, trying to play it cool. "Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about, Chad. I have photos, videos, recordings of your intimate calls, every text message. And I also have detailed financial documents showing Sarah embezzling funds from my company to fund your little romance. Are you aware that you're an accessory to fraud? And that I'm about to make sure your law firm knows every single detail? The arrogance drained from his voice, replaced by a palpable fear. Wait, let's talk, man. We can work this out. Too late. There's nothing to talk about, Chad. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. I hung up. He was already reeling. The next morning, with all the documentation meticulously compiled and signed, I officially filed for divorce. Full custody of Ellie. Full financial audit of every single asset. Restitution for every penny stolen. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a legal war. And I had all the ammunition. The divorce proceedings kicked off like a legal wildfire. Sarah, through her lawyer, a slick, aggressive type named Peterson, came out swinging. She fought desperately, clawing for every asset, every penny, and outrageously for full custody of Ellie. It was a joke, a sick, twisted joke, but they tried to play it anyway. Peterson's strategy was as predictable as it was disgusting. He tried to paint me as the villain, an absentee husband, a cold, distant workaholic, obsessed with my business, neglecting my family, driving my poor, lonely wife into the arms of another man. He even tried to suggest that my wealth somehow made me an unsuitable parent, too preoccupied to raise my own child. It was classic gaslighting, but amplified through a legal lens. But Brenda Carmichael was a force of nature. She didn't let him get far. She calmly, methodically presented my overwhelming evidence. The photos of Sarah and Chad, the explicit audio recordings, the burner phone's contents, every message, every deleted image recovered. The sheer volume and damning nature of it left Peterson stumbling, trying to interrupt, trying to object. But Brenda just kept going, relentless. The judge, an older woman with a stern gaze, was clearly not amused by Sarah's lawyer's tactics. Then came the forensic accountants. Mike Miller, my loyal colleague, took the stand, cool and professional, delivering his report with chilling precision. He laid out the timeline of Sarah's extensive financial fraud, detailing every manipulated ledger, every diverted fund, every stolen dollar. The embezzlement wasn't just substantial. It was a systemic breach of trust, a calculated criminal act. The numbers didn't lie. Based on that report, Brenda immediately secured a court order to freeze all of Sarah's remaining assets. Bank accounts, investment portfolios she had access to, all locked down. Sarah, in a desperate, last-ditch effort, tried to offload some hidden valuables, expensive jewelry, artwork she'd squirreled away. But Brenda was always one step ahead. My rapid legal action blocked every attempt. Sarah was financially crippled, isolated and visibly seething. The custody battle was particularly ugly. Peterson, still clinging to the absentee father narrative, tried to argue that my work schedule and business travel made me unfit for full custody. He implied that Ellie needed a stable, present mother, completely ignoring the fact that Sarah had been anything but. That's when I had to play the hardest cards. Brenda presented evidence of Sarah's actual neglect. The endless girls' nights, leaving Ellie alone with me or a sitter, her emotional distance, her preoccupation with her affair. We had testimony from Ellie's preschool teachers who noted Sarah's increasing disengagement, her frequent tardiness for pickups, and then the ultimate blow, the psychological reports detailing the emotional toll Sarah's affair and subsequent departure had taken on Ellie. My sweet, confused little girl, asking where mommy went, feeling abandoned. Ellie's emotional well-being, her stability and safety, became the absolute central focus of the custody case, eclipsing all of Sarah's desperate ploys. The court started to rule heavily in my favor. The judge's decisions were clear, acknowledging Sarah's severe misconduct, her financial fraud, and her blatant parental neglect. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about her character, her reliability, her fitness as a parent. As the legal proceedings moved forward, details began to leak. My company is high profile, and frankly, Sarah's actions were too egregious to stay entirely hidden. Whispers turned into murmurs, then into full-blown public knowledge. Her once pristine reputation as a successful professional, as a respected wife and mother in our community, was utterly tarnished. Colleagues at her firm started distancing themselves. Friends, even those who initially sided with her, Started to see the truth as the evidence became undeniable. The shame was palpable, even for me watching it unfold. Through it all, I maintained my composure. It was a constant battle, an emotional tightrope walk, but I refused to give Sarah the satisfaction of seeing me break. My focus remained unwavering. Ellie's future, her safety, her happiness, and securing the justice that was due. This wasn't just about winning, it was about ensuring Sarah could never hurt us like this again. Chad's downfall was swift and brutal. My call to his law firm, combined with the evidence Brenda presented to them, had immediate and severe consequences. He was suspended within days, and the state bar began an investigation, with disbarment a very real possibility. I made damn sure his professional misconduct, his involvement with Sarah, his knowledge of her embezzlement, his unethical conduct, became widely known within the legal circles where I had connections. It wasn't just Sarah who was going down. Chad was going with her. His reputation, his career, his entire future as a lawyer, utterly destroyed. He started trying to contact me. Texts, voicemails, even showing up at my office building once, only to be escorted away by security. His messages were pathetic, begging for leniency, for me to see reason. The arrogance was completely gone, replaced by raw, desperate fear. Dave, please, man, don't do this. My career, I didn't know the extent of it, I swear. But I stood firm. There was no leniency for Chad. He was a lawyer, an officer of the court. He knew right from wrong, and he chose to participate in and benefit from Sarah's scheme. He knew she was married, knew she had a child. He was complicit. I blocked his number, ignored his pleas. Sarah, meanwhile, was getting a taste of her own medicine. Financially, she was screwed. With her assets frozen, her company access revoked, and the fraudulently obtained funds gone, she quickly started to struggle. The luxury lifestyle she had become accustomed to, the one she funded with stolen money, vanished overnight. Her social circle? Gone. Poof. Friends who had laughed at her parties, admired her successful life, evaporated the moment the details of her affair and embezzlement became public. No one wanted to be associated with her. She was socially ostracized, a pariah. The phone calls stopped. The invitations dried up. She was completely isolated, left alone with the wreckage she had created. Then came the desperate attempts at reconciliation with me. Emails, texts, tearful voicemails. Dave, I miss you. I miss our life. I made a mistake. Please, can't we just try to fix this? She even tried to play the for Ellie's sake card, attempting to manipulate me into thinking a broken home was worse than a fraudulent one. But I wasn't falling for it. Brenda had prepared me for this. Every word was a calculated attempt to soften me up, to regain some leverage. I responded through Brenda, a firm, unequivocal rejection. There was no going back. She tried to contact Ellie too. That was the line. I'd already set up protective measures, a new phone for Ellie with restricted contacts, supervised visits, if any, arranged through my lawyer. I wasn't going to let Sarah emotionally manipulate our daughter, not after everything. Ellie was my priority, and her emotional safety was paramount. The court ruling for custody came down, and it was a definitive victory. The judge granted me full custody of Ellie, citing Sarah's demonstrable unsuitability as a parent, her financial misconduct, and the severe emotional distress she had caused our daughter. It was an overwhelming relief, a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. Ellie was safe. With me. The financial judgment was equally devastating for Sarah. She was ordered to repay every single stolen dollar, every cent of the embezzled funds. On top of that, she received minimal, if any, alimony. Brenda had successfully argued that her actions constituted marital misconduct and financial crime, effectively nullifying any claim she might have had to my assets. She was left with virtually nothing. And as if that wasn't enough, the state then pursued criminal charges for embezzlement. My evidence, meticulously compiled by Mike and Brenda, was airtight. Sarah was facing a harsh future, not just in civil court, but in criminal court. She was financially ruined, her professional career in tatters, socially ostracized, and now facing the very real possibility of jail time. The elaborate house of cards she had built had finally come crashing down, leaving her buried under its rubble. With Sarah out of our lives legally and physically, the real work began. Rebuilding. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about healing. My entire focus shifted to Ellie. She was still young, but the confusion and sadness she'd endured were profound. I enrolled her in play therapy, a specialist who could help her process the trauma of the divorce, the sudden absence of her mother, and the emotional chaos she'd witnessed. She still asked about mommy sometimes, but less frequently and with less pain in her voice. I made sure she knew she was loved, safe, and that nothing that happened was her fault. Our father-daughter bond became everything. We cooked together, read together, had movie nights. Simple things, but they were the foundation of our new normal. My company, surprisingly, didn't just survive. It thrived. The crisis had forced me to tighten up security protocols, both internal and external. Mike Miller, who had been my rock through the financial forensics, was promoted to Chief Financial Officer, a role he more than earned. His loyalty and integrity were absolute, and the company was stronger for it. We implemented new checks and balances, ensuring no one could ever exploit the system like Sarah had again. I started therapy myself. NGL, I thought I was fine, that I could just push through it, but Brenda, my lawyer, strongly recommended it. She was right. The trauma of the betrayal, the constant vigilance, the anger, the profound loss, it was all still there, festering beneath the surface. Talking to a professional helped me unpack it, to process the grief, to learn how to trust again, and how to forgive myself for missing the signs. It was a long, slow process, but a necessary one. I also consciously reconnected with my friends and family. They had been my unwavering support system throughout the legal battles, and now they became the cornerstone of our healing. Dinners with my parents, game nights with my siblings, quiet conversations with old friends, rebuilding trust in relationships, starting with the ones that truly mattered, was crucial. They reminded me of the good in people, of loyalty and genuine connection. We established new routines at home, a predictable, loving rhythm that Ellie desperately needed. Mornings were calmer, evenings were filled with laughter, not tension. Our house felt like a home again, not a battleground or a surveillance hub. It was safe, peaceful. I spent a lot of time reflecting on the painful lessons learned, about trust, about vigilance, about the insidious nature of gaslighting and love bombing, about the red flags I dismissed as paranoia. I learned that intuition is a powerful tool, and sometimes you just have to listen to your gut, even when you don't want to believe it. I learned that security isn't just about technology, it's about vetting the people you allow into your life, into your heart, and into your company. Our security systems, both at home and professionally, became absolutely impenetrable. Not out of paranoia, but out of a fierce determination to protect what was mine, what was ours, what was Ellie's. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, small moments of joy and peace returned to our daily lives. Ellie's laughter was brighter, more carefree. My own shoulders felt a little lighter. We took a short vacation, just me and Ellie, to the beach. Watching her splash in the wet, her face lit up with pure happiness, felt like a glimpse into a future finally free from the shadow of Sarah's betrayal. We were survivors, we were healing, and we were building something stronger, together. The day the divorce was fully finalized was oddly anticlimactic. No fireworks, no dramatic courtroom scenes, just a signature, a stamp, and a quiet sense of closure. All the legal battles, the custody hearings, the financial restitution, the fraud charges against Sarah were decisively concluded. Brenda had done her job flawlessly. Sarah was ordered to pay back every stolen dollar, and the criminal case against her was proceeding. It was over, completely. Sarah effectively disappeared from our lives. Her last-ditch, pathetic attempts at contact were easily blocked. My phone, Ellie's phone, our emails, all secured. She was a ghost, a painful memory fading into the past. And honestly, it was a relief. The constant vigilance, the fear of her next move, that gnawing uncertainty, it was finally gone. We were truly free. Ellie and I thrived in our new normal. Our home, once a silent battleground, was now filled with laughter, the smell of her favorite pancakes, and the comforting rhythm of our new routines. She was flourishing, turning into this happy, secure, and wonderfully well-adjusted child. Her therapy sessions helped her process the confusion, and with time, the sadness surrounding her mom's absence morphed into a quiet understanding. She knew she was loved unconditionally, and that made all the difference. My company continued to excel. The experience, as painful as it was, had forced us to become even more robust, more secure. Mike Miller, my CFO, had proven his loyalty and expertise 100 times over. I even started speaking at industry conferences, not just about tech, but about corporate security, asset protection, and, subtly, about the importance of due diligence, even in personal relationships. I found a new purpose, a deeper meaning, in sharing the hard-won lessons from my betrayal. It was a way to turn a profoundly negative experience into something positive, to help others avoid the same pitfalls. My role as a father had become the absolute center of my universe. Every decision, every plan revolved around Ellie. It wasn't a burden, it was a joy, a privilege. And as a successful entrepreneur, I had the freedom and resources to give her the stable, loving environment she deserved. Working through my lingering anger was a journey. Therapy helped. Understanding that her actions weren't a reflection of my worth, but of her own brokenness, slowly allowed me to let go of the bitterness. The hardest part was forgiving myself, for being naive, for missing the signs, for trusting blindly. But I got there. I learned that forgiveness wasn't about excusing her, but about freeing myself. I even started cautiously to consider future relationships. It wasn't a priority, and it definitely wasn't something I rushed into. Ellie's well-being was, and always would be, paramount. But the idea that there could be genuine connection, real trust in my future, no longer felt like a fantasy. I knew what red flags to look for, how to listen to my gut, and how to protect myself and my daughter. As I look at Ellie now, laughing as she chases our new puppy in the backyard, I see pure, unadulterated joy. Our future stretches out before us, bright and stable, free from the shadow of Sarah's deceit. The moral consequences of her betrayal were stark. She lost everything: her family, her career, her reputation, her freedom. While we, the victims of her actions, found peace, justice, and a renewed sense of purpose. This whole ordeal taught me about the immense power of evidence, the critical importance of logical, decisive action, and the unwavering resilience of the human spirit. I wasn't going to be a victim. I chose to fight, to uncover the truth, and to heal. And in doing so, I found a strength I never knew I possessed. NGL, the dust has settled, but the ground underneath is forever changed. The profound consequences of Sarah's betrayal echo through everything. She's gone, utterly isolated, stripped of her career, her reputation, and her freedom. She lost her daughter, her home, and every shred of respect. TBH, the last I heard, she was still fighting the criminal charges, a grim reality that will define her future. For me and Ellie, the scars remain. While we've built a new, beautiful life, the lessons learned are etched deep. I'm no longer the naive man who trusted blindly. I'm vigilant, perhaps too much so. Every new relationship, every potential partnership, is now viewed through a lens of cautious scrutiny. Ellie, though thriving, carries a subtle awareness, a quiet understanding that trust can be broken, and love can sometimes just disappear. This whole ordeal wasn't about revenge, it was about truth, justice, and protection. It was about facing the ugliest parts of humanity and still choosing to rebuild with integrity. The peace we found is hard-won, a constant reminder of the cost of her choices. Her legacy isn't love or partnership, it's a stark warning of deceit. And that, NGL, is a consequence that will follow her and us forever. The end.